Okay, here we are. Mark Moore, welcome. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. Thanks for having me today.
Yeah, thank you so much. As you know, we do Power Hour once a month, and we invite guests to share their experiences and, their journey and how they've got to where they've got to. And I know your journey has been quite exciting to watch. And certainly, you shared a bit of your information of how you got to where you got to in our group coaching sessions a few weeks ago. And I just thought it'd be such a nice thing for you to come on and share how you've got to just working with one client. I just can't wait to get stuck into hearing about how you did that. So obviously the topic is how to get off the books and grow your practice from somebody who's done it. So let's get started. So just a little bit of background, Mark. Tell us about yourself. Tell us what your background is and what enticed you to start a bookkeeping business.
Yeah, so I was actually hospitality born and bred. And so from school, I studied hospitality and did hospitality management at TAFE and worked in kitchens as chef and washing dishes and all that. But progressed through that into the management side and then went, I don't really want to work on the front desk and deal with customers anymore. So I did my accounting degree pretty late in life and did it part-time while I worked. And then followed through and did my CPA studies and was working for a hotel group. So I was the financial controller where I looked after a group of properties, hotels from sort of Coffs Harbour to Coolangatta. And in the end, I'd done about 10 years with them. And sort of just happened as soon as we had kids where I just felt like I was being robbed of my time. And I live on the border, New South Wales, Queensland border at Tweed Heads, and I was driving to the Gold Coast. So it was taking me an hour to get to work and an hour back. And I just wasn't getting paid enough to do that and to be away from the kids. And just when I need to do something about this, and I plotted and planned to open my own business for like 18 months. Yeah. And I was actually waiting for my long service leave to roll in. So that I had some money to back me up when I jumped off and quit my job. So I did all that, and believe it or not, you can be an accountant and a CPA and still not be a BAS agent without doing an additional course, which I didn't know. So I had to do that and then get my BAS agent registration. And thankfully I had time to plan and I overthought it, and I did forecasts and spreadsheets to work out whether I'd have enough money to live off when I quit. And then eventually threw it in and walked out. I had two clients, I think, when I walked out that I was doing on nights and weekends and the odd sick day. Just started from there. And that was February 2020. And I think it was about a couple of weeks after leaving work that the whole world just shut down and all went into lockdowns. And I freaked out a little bit that I should have kept my secure job, but then I realised very quickly that it actually wasn't a secure job when all my teammates were laid off, and it was horrible. So
you made the right move. Yeah,
I think so. Yeah, well, as soon as the ATO put out this word JobKeeper, the phone started ringing because no one knew what it was and what they needed to do and how to get it. And so, my number had already been out on, like Google and stuff for the last sort of 6 months. So, it just happened.
So tell me, I want us to be speaking to that bookkeeper out there that might be just sort of hesitating, might be working for an accountant or doing a little bit themselves, but just not ready to launch into it. Like, how you said, did those spreadsheets and everything, and you were like working it out. What would you say to those people now? Now you know what you know.
Well, just do it is one of them. But I mean, if you you can plan and overthink everything and find a reason not to do stuff. Yeah. But if you just start taking steps towards it, it will eventually just happen. Yeah. And that was like, I had done all this sort of planning and reading and listening to podcasts and all that to figure out what I wanted my business to look like. But nothing was going to make me do any of it except the first step. And that first step was answering the phone to the first client, and then it was going to them and getting a signature on an engagement letter. And, it snowballs after that because you've started. You just got to start. You just got to start and it will happen.
And can I also, sorry, I'm going off the script a little bit here, but can I also ask, like, I just know bookkeepers would be sitting out there going, yeah, but he's a CPA. Talk to me about that.
I didn't say anything about my qualifications because it actually, and I still don't, it actually confuses people more than helps, because they don't, it's like coming up to an emergency nurse and saying, is this a skin cancer on my back? Like you're asking the wrong person.
So your clients don't know any different. They think you're just got a bookkeeping, like, a BAS. Interesting.
Yeah. Who I do tell are accountants and referral partners. I tell them, and I tell them about my background, because that differentiates me, yes, between other bookkeepers in our area. But they also know I'm staying in my lane and I don't answer questions that are beyond me, and recently I've actually given up my CPA registration. So
okay, interesting.
Came up for renewal, and I made the decision because I did it because, well, one, work was paying for it, and the other, I didn't know what business I wanted to open when I was doing those studies. So I was doing all of it just in case I wanted to go into tax.
Yeah.
And then with my history being in more management accounting rather than tax accounting, I just went, no, I don't have the experience or knowledge to do that on my own. I couldn't do it. I'd have to work for somebody to get those skills. So that's not a business I can open. But then down the track, who knows, I could add that to my repertoire or to my scope. But then I just went, I don't actually want to do it. There's just so much to know from a BAS agent point of view, let alone adding tax to it. So I just went, no, I don't need to pay the extra $1,000 a year. I'll just let it run out. And if I ever want a tax arm of my business, I'll go in partnership with someone or hire someone or whatever that has the experience. So,
I love that, Mark, because I always say this, there's no better time to be a bookkeeper. I just honestly believe that, hand on heart, because you've got such a great relationship with your clients, so you're connecting with them at least every month. Accountants traditionally is once or twice a year if they're lucky, things like that. But what's your thoughts on that? Do you think that this is an amazing time to be a bookkeeper?
Oh, it's awesome. And the other thing is there's so much, COVID and everything has opened up so many opportunities for us to help more. And it is, people are looking to automation for certain things in their life, but I don't think that's come to fruition in bookkeeping yet to its fullest. And I don't think it probably ever will, because there's just so much difference across industries, across types of business owners, different business models, that just you can't automate it in one thing. So there's always going to be us who are there having those relationships. And you know what? It's not also only about their bookwork. Like, I don't know how much time we spend a week. You might as well call it counselling time. The first 15 minutes of every phone call where you're hearing about their family or what's going on with staff members or whatever it is, and I do the same, to certain people that I am around, because I'd come home and talk to my wife about work and she just glazes over. And if you deal with our employees, then you can't talk to them sometimes either. So these business owners use us as their confidant. We're the closest one to them. And so you get really involved in those relationships. And it's a good time. And I don't think it's going to get any worse by technology and like everybody's freaking out about.
It just seems to get more, and the more the ATOs seem to change things, it becomes more and more needed. I think you sort of touched on a little bit where bookkeepers can kind of really niche into those automations. So wherever you're kind of, I know that you're in the hospitality industry and that you're niching into a few areas and you become very good at a particular, program or point of sale or whatever it is. And you're the unicorn, right? People want to go to you because you know that. So, there's all bunches of different opportunities with that, isn't there?
Yeah.
You're doing bookkeeping for just one client at the moment by choice. Tell us about how that feels and just tell us how that happened.
Well, you probably should clarify. I don't just have one client.
No.
We look after about 52 clients and I do the bookwork for one, at the moment. And so I have 3 on my team, 2 part-timers and 1 full-time, and I'm hiring another one at the moment. And it's come about, I guess I planned that from the beginning. Like my research time, I read Michael Gerber, I listened to Michael Palmer. I took all of that in and I started the business knowing that it wasn't just going to be me. And so as soon as I got to that limit of work where I went, wow, I'm doing 50 hours a week now, and I'm, it might be 100 grand or whatever it is I was bringing in, I need somebody else, right? I need someone now, because I'm not doing this forever. This is not what I signed up for. But I was ready. All my systems were ready to plug someone in. And then we just fine-tuned them every time we could, fine-tune the systems to make it easier to bring someone else in. We split up the work, split up the clients so that we've got an even mix per team member of weekly, monthly, quarterly tasks amongst the clients they've got. And then, I just started working through the ones that were still on my desk to say, this is what I need to do to get them off my desk. And then work through those with whoever I was handing it over to make sure that they could just pick it up and go with it. But it wasn't sort of, I guess I had you guiding me as well, so that was probably good. it was having a little bit of I guess, just like I said, starting somewhere. I started with one. I looked at one client and went, I don't want to do this anymore, and I reckon someone else can. Come over here and I'll show you how we do the BAS and this and this, and this is this extra report he wants, and this is how you put it together. Do you want me to put that on, a checklist or anything? And they go, no, I'm good with that. All right, see you then.
So then it's kind of like when you start doing it, you see, oh, that wasn't too hard, and then it starts building the confidence, just doing it.
Pick an easy one, start with that, really, because there were a couple where I just went, I don't know how I'm going to do this. These people are really relying on calling me. I know the business inside out. There's some things that I do that, might be a little bit technical or whatever, that I do every month, but I don't know, like I haven't actually put it down in a process. And so I just went, well, let's put it in a process. Let's put it. So creating journals for sales revenue, posting sales revenue, all this sort of stuff that I was just doing when I needed to do it. I just turned around and went, okay, now I need to do a spreadsheet where we have a print screen of this. We open this report, we get this number, we put it in here, and that then creates your journal, just little things like that, so that then who you're giving it to, it makes sense and they can do it. And I felt confident they were doing it the right way. So that's sort of how I work through them, I guess.
Nice. You made reference, Mark, to the Michael Gerber. So that, just so for our audience, Michael Gerber is the author of the E-Myth, and in fact, you're part of Pure Bookkeeping as well, which is a system that a lot of bookkeepers use to systemize their business. So Michael Gerber and Debbie Roberts, the co-founder of Pure Bookkeeping, wrote a book called The E-Myth Bookkeeper, which is, I don't know if that's the book you read. Was it The Bookkeeper? Yeah. The other one that you talked about was Michael Palmer, and he has a podcast called the Successful Bookkeeper Podcast, which has got a cult following that most of the people listening to this probably have heard about. But if not, jump on that. That's an awesome one. Another book that I know you've read, which I don't think you mentioned, was a book called Clockwork, which was from Michael Michalowicz. Yeah, so that was another one that you sort of said to me a few weeks ago.
That's another great one in terms of the process to go away from your business for 4 weeks. So that's the whole book leads up to that. He actually holds you accountable as well at the start of the book. He says, send me an email to this email address telling me what date you're going away. And then, with an amazing marketing system, you get all these emails throughout that period to say, you should be up here. How are you doing with this? Tell me about this now. And it's really good, and it works you up to having that time away from your business without doing work, that being the key point. So I read that a year or so ago and started taking steps towards it back then. And I had a date. We booked a holiday in the start of September this year. We just had 2 weeks in Tasmania. And we did that without my laptop, and I didn't do anything, if much at all, while I was away for the 2 weeks, which was, setting a date was awesome, because then you've got to have it all done, It's not, I'll do it next. It's not, I'll do it next week or when I get time. You just got to have it done. And I was desperate to have the holiday without it. I told so many people I was doing it.
It's like, I can't back out now. And that's a good thing too, isn't it? Like that peer pressure of when you say you're going to do it, it's like, okay. It's like when you say you're going to do a marathon, it's like, oh man, I've got to do the training now.
Yes.
So what impact has doing this had on your thinking around the possibility of like what level you feel like you can grow your business now? Like what kind of like thinking have you got? Say when you first started to where you are now, just to see like the difference in your thinking.
All right. Like I don't know how I had this conversation, but I had it with someone the other day. I was comparing being in a corporate role, which I was in, and there is accounts coordinators, who are on the ground doing the work, and they are wholly focused on that, and that takes up their world and their brain space.
Yeah.
And every now and then you'd see this free spirit wander through in his thongs and shorts, and everybody's, that's the CEO, and he's the one who has all these crazy ideas. You go, you're an idiot. We're never going to be able to do that. That's the difference, right? You're either doing the work and you're thinking about everything you need to do and by when, and struggling to keep up with that, or you're the other side. Once you free yourself from that, you have time to think about things that you would never have thought about before, and that is growth, systemizing, and now my next thing is procedures. I'm like, I've got a team of 3. I'm about to put a 4th on, and I don't have a leave policy. I don't, like the girl who's going on maternity leave just rang me to say, when am I coming back? What do you want me to do? And I'm like, yeah, you're right. We should have policy on that.
To get that done now. But isn't that a great analogy when you think about like the CEO walking through with the thongs and the shorts, you go, and to even like you're so much in your work, you go, wait, like I can't even relate to that headspace. And then when you're out and then you're all like living that now, you go, I can't even relate to the other headspace now. Like this is just like a whole bunch. This is just, and I always give the analogy, it's like a game of Monopoly then. It's like, well, how big can I grow this? What can I really like do with this little beautiful machine that I've got going here? And what's the possibilities, which is kind of exciting.
It is, yeah, because when you get to this point of view and you've got a level of team that are doing work, it comes, I don't know if it's my head that does it, but I see profit per hour. Like I see little indicators and I just go, like, now I'm talking about how that sort of growth happens, because now I've gotten to a point where the profit per hour and the hours they're doing actually pays for me to not do the book work. Like it pays me without doing any book work.
Yeah.
That's incredible. I didn't really click that was the way that this business was going to be. I knew I wanted something like that, but I didn't know I'd got there. And one day I looked at it and went, hang on a minute, I'm actually not doing any book work and I'm still taking a wage and we've still got money in the bank. And like that's the reality. And then you go, okay, well, multiply that now, because every person I put on, is so much profit per year. That's it, and all it is tweaking how much that is with pricing and with, productivity and all that sort of stuff, which is the exciting stuff. Because then, that's kind of my background. That was what I did in hotels. Was I went to the restaurant team and I went with the head chef and the food and beverage manager and went, your payroll's too high and this cost's too high, and can we look at getting a different supplier here and drop that there because this margin should be this, and that's the exciting stuff. That's what I like to do. So that's now what I start looking at as soon as I have the time.
Yeah, that's it. It's so incredible how similar our backgrounds are. In hotels, that's what I used to do with the hotels.
Yeah,
I love it.
Yeah.
Some point I was going to make on what you just said, or come back to my head. What was the hardest thing about doing what you did, Mark? What do you feel like was the biggest like mental hurdle that you had to get over to do what you did?
I think the relationships that you create with your clients, you just want that to continue like it's you. It's not that you've promised anything, but you've proven that's the way you are and that's the way you deal with them, and that's you want somebody to continue that, but it's never going to be the same.
Yeah.
And you've got to let it go, and it will be what it will be. And if you've hired the right people, they'll have the same thought process as you. They might not have the same personal skills, but it will still be appropriate, and then I guess you back it up with our own touch points, still communicating with me. I think letting go of perfection. So nothing's ever going to be perfect. And even when I was doing it, I know I was making mistakes because I was just too busy. And now when there's mistakes, just learning instead of stressing about it. and that every business you walk into has mistakes every day, every week, and you deal with them and you move on. It's not the end of the world. That's probably the hardest part.
Yeah. And knowing that, like, I always think it's a bit of a shock sometimes when you do let it go and somebody else does the work, and like sometimes like it's quite seamless. So it's like, oh, you kind of put that relationship higher than what, at the end of the day, they're wanting good bookkeeping, right? They're wanting bookkeeping done well for their business. And you remove from doing the physical bookkeeping actually develops the relationship stronger, because then you've got, I know for me, when I was building the bookkeeping business, that's when you get to go out and meet with them more regularly for more like holistic sort of conversations rather than around the nitty gritty, which is you kind of get to develop I feel like a more meaningful relationship around the bigger business sort of discussions.
Yeah, exactly. And that's where you can add value over the top of what you were doing when you were doing all the work, and they'll pay for it, and they'll pay better money for it too, for that sort of help and advice. So
Absolutely.
it's a good business place to be as well.
What was the easiest thing about doing what you did that you thought would be difficult, but you were like, oh, that's pretty easy?
Probably the systemizing part, like as in it all started at the beginning, and it wasn't really when I handed over those last few clients to the latest team member. It was sort of at the start where it was just me, but I was using a workflow manager to track all of my jobs, all of my checklists, and it was just me. I was paying way too much for it for one person, but I knew that if I did it and I set it up that way, I could plug someone else into it.
Repeatable.
And it ended up the first person I put on was during a lockdown, like we were supposed to be in the office, and then the next day we weren't, her first day. So I just went, just go and learn all you know about this software, do every webinar training session, and then I want you to set up the checklist for it. And that's your first week. You're not touching any clients.
Nice.
And so we got it right, with my first team member. We nailed out all of that stuff. And like I had my own thought processes and checklists and things and pure bookkeeping checklists for doing a BAS, but I had to put that into a workflow system. So I think that was probably the easiest part, because it was, I don't know, done from the beginning. I didn't have to do it for 100 clients. I just had to start doing it from the beginning.
And I think that's one thing that people just avoid so much, is like to set up the systems for the workflow. So you've got your eye on everything. What workflow do you use?
Carbon.
So it's you've got your eyes on exactly with WIP, knowing exactly where everything is. So that gives you a sense, I don't know, because I'm not a bookkeeper, of course, but that gives you that sense of control a little bit. Do you feel like you know?
Absolutely. And then the other thing that, I mean, they're all different. They all have their pros and cons, but the thing that I've really struggled with, I think, is people were going to communicate with my clients in their own method, and I don't know anything about it. I don't get the to and fro. But in Carbon, it's all in there. I see their conversations. They can turn that off if they want, but by default, I can see every conversation. So today, I wanted to know where we're up to with a BAS, and I went in there to see if they'd had any communication together about what was needed. I could click on the checklist for the BAS for this quarter, and there was the in and the out emails on the timeline showing me that she'd already asked for the info and we're waiting on it from him, and I'll just go, okay, but I don't need to worry then.
Can I just have a conversation just quickly on workflow? So many people I speak to, I say, okay, so what's your workflow? And they go, oh, Asana or Trello. Just give me like the comparison. And I know like pure bookkeeping have a workflow. I mean, there's Carbon, there's ClickUp, which are proper workflows where you can see what's going on. Just give me a little bit of a little snapshot of your opinion of like a proper workflow, like, pure bookkeeping workflow, Asana, Carbon or ClickUp, as opposed to Asana, Trello or something like that. What's your opinion?
I think the two polar opposites are Carbon and Asana. And they're actually the only two that I've spent any time in as well. So Asana is like a spreadsheeted checklist that recurs. So you can set a quarterly checklist within there that will recur every quarter. it still moves. You still have to move those things around to, I'm going to do that on Tuesday, I'm going to do that on Wednesday, I'm going to do that here. But there's no background timeline being held in terms of what's gone in and out. Emails aren't integrated as far as I know with it either. So it is really just a checklist that you can set to recur. That's how I would explain it. Whereas carbon is, it's a email integration. So it integrates with Gmail. So all of our accounts are Gmail, and your emails fall into a triage, which you then can tag to a contact, to a client name, to a checklist. So we have a client set up in there, and in that client, we have a checklist for every task we do. We do a weekly payroll checklist, which within that, it has all the tasks that we do to do a payroll.
Yeah.
We have a monthly checklist for our balancing at end of month. Then we have a quarterly checklist, and all of those are set to recur. They all have tasks within them. They can be allocated to different people. And any email you get, you can log it against or tag it against that particular checklist.
Can I just ask one question? Would you be able to do what you've done working with just one client without the workflow?
No.
What if you had it all set up on Asana or a Trello? Could you do it like would you have the confidence that you've got now?
No, I wouldn't, because did I say that's the hardest part, letting go? Because it is the hardest part, because you don't know where everybody's up to. You don't know whether someone's trailing behind, and we might have 6 weeks to complete 50 basses, but you know that there's ones that you've got to get to straight away, because they do take the full 6 weeks to give you everything, and that you need 3 reminders before they'll give it to you. And I know that I always did that in my own head, until I set up a workflow for it, because I knew they needed that. But then it gets beyond you, and the amount of clients is too big that you can't keep all that stuff in your head anymore. It's got to be automated. It's got to be systemized. And then I'm confident that they've got everything under control. The team members have got everything under control. And you can
have a little Bo Peep in case you're worried about that.
Yes. Yeah.
That's
the difference as well, between the two. So there's a part of carbon which is your work. So it's all your checklists that you need to complete for each client. I can go in there and just filter that for them. So I can go, okay, I want to look at this team member and what's still on their to-do list. I can see how big it is. So when I've got something crop up that I need to give to somebody, I can go and see who's got the most work still to do and avoid giving it to them. I wouldn't have done it without it. And you wouldn't have the confidence that everybody's up to where they need to be. And the other thing is scope creep and things that happen as well, where you can see the amount of times that somebody's gone backwards and forwards on trying to get a BAS done. Besides the time that they've logged, you can see the emails and who's the one not doing the work. Is it the client sending it and it's sitting there with us, or is it the other way around?
And I think that's where a lot of resistance comes from, bookkeepers to at the end of the day, systemizing and setting up workflows and putting in the time and the effort to do that. It's time consuming and it's boring. And it's almost like, I think in this industry, and I see it so often, it's almost like you're rewarded to do the boring stuff. Like you put the work, you're like one client at a time. I'm going to set them up. I'm going to set them up with pure bookkeeping. I'm going to set them up with a workflow. All that painful stuff has got you to where you're just working with one client now. And you've got other bookkeepers doing all the rest of it, and you're feeling confident about that. But that doesn't happen without certain things being done to get you to where you've got to. And I kind of feel like that's like the missing piece in the jigsaw, where in your mind you think, oh, it should be easy, but it's not. It's not easy.
No, it's not. And it's even harder once you're already down the track. So if you're sitting there and you've already got a book full of clients and you're already doing 40 hours a week, it's so overwhelming to think about setting up something like that.
That's it.
But you just got to do one. Because if you do one and you create the checklist that you want and you tweak it one quarter and go, happy with that, you know what? You just go create template, and now you've got your template. All you need is somebody to put in all the company details and the contact details.
And that doesn't have to be you.
No, and
Yeah.
and all of a sudden, you can roll out that template across all of them, and boom, all your BAS checklists are done. And then, okay, next quarter I'm going to do the super one, and
Yeah.
tweak it, make it the right checklist, then create a template and put it
Yeah.
through everybody else. You have to do it all at once. You've got a system that might be working in your head right now that's going to do you for now. This is a byproduct side project. It doesn't have to be all done at once. Just do it bit by bit.
It always reminds me of that lovely saying, the magic you're looking for is in the work you avoid. and it's true. It's like you want to be able to come into work and not be the person that's just the go-to person. You want to be able to push all that compliance work out. And it's the magic that you're looking for, but we're avoiding the work that needs to be done to get to that magic, and it's just because sometimes it's time consuming. And also, there's so much choice out there. We're just so bamboozled by choice. But I know my personal belief with the whole choice thing is you just choose one and go down that line. I mean, certainly for me, I think you need a system. Pure Bookkeeping is the only bookkeeping system that I know. So you need a system, number one. But anything else, you just got to make a decision and go with it. It's just. And generally what happens if you do make the decision, certainly being part of Pure Bookkeeping, you've got the Pure Bookkeeping workflow. So that's kind of an easy decision. But I just think you just don't overthink it. It's just pick what you want to go and go hard on that one. And if you want to change down the track, you don't change down the track. But I think we get stalled by the choices sometimes and we don't do anything. We stop. Oh, I don't know. There's so many choices. I just won't do any of it. I'll just keep doing what I'm doing because I know it.
Yeah, exactly. And if you go to any events where you're friendly with other bookkeepers that, might come into contact with those, you ask them, somebody you trust. Don't go and ask Facebook land, because you put a comment on there and everybody has a different opinion, because it's just such a broad spectrum of people and business sizes and structures and things suit different people. So you can't rely on asking the internet. You've just got to do it. But the best thing I found, which I don't like doing, but I had to do, is just get the demo. They won't give it to you free. They want to give you a demo, and you have to pull time out of your day to spend half an hour on a Zoom going through it with them. But you know what? They tell you all the stuff that you don't know.
yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Book a demo. Yeah.
I know, you've been working with me for a while now, Mark, and I know a lot of people say to me that, I don't know if they say this to you, but Mark seems so confident, and certainly you do come across confident to me as well. How much do you think confidence plays a role in what you've done, and what's the real feeling behind that, confident exterior?
It's like the duck on the pond, though, really. And I've been told that a lot, that I'm like a duck on a pond, especially when I worked in hotels. I worked in those environments on a front desk of a hotel, for instance, where you're dealing with some pretty stressful situations, and in management roles, you've got to just work your way through that. And I'm apparently I tap, I flick, I do all sorts of things under the desk and above the shoulders. I'm fine. I don't know how. Sometimes I feel like words don't come out, but I don't like talking in front of people. I sweat and stress like nothing else when I get up in front of a group of people, especially if I'm trying to teach them something. I used to hate going to meetings and provide reports and talk to leadership teams about reports. And the only thing that got me past that was preparation. And I learned that from a previous manager. If you're overwhelmed and scared about the situation, then at least have all your ducks in the row about what you're talking about. And that will make you feel better. But I always have had this feeling since I started the business that it's all going to come crumbling down one day, that all this will end, that I'm in someone will find out that I don't know what I'm talking about.
Imposter syndrome.
And I didn't know it was called that till I started coming to your meetings and a few other conversations with people where it's a thing. And I just felt like I was just not. Well, see, I came from an accounting background in a corporate world. I hadn't touched Xero before, or MYOB. I hadn't dealt with the issues that small business owners deal with. So I was like, I'm way behind the ball here in terms of catching up to other bookkeepers, and how am I going to sell myself for what I want to charge? And I just felt like it was all going to come crashing down, and I still do some days. I just feel like it's going to dry up. But the thing that's changed it just recently is you said to me, you're the sort of person who, and you've shown by creating this business, that if it all did come crashing down, you'll just do something else.
Yeah, because you've learned the template already. Yeah.
And somehow money, like we'll just build another business or do something else that money will come in. And I feel that now.
Yeah.
And I go, I'll never work for anyone else again.
Yeah.
But if this all did fall in a heap and something happened or whatever, I'd be fine. I'd figure something out. And that's a good place to get to. It gives you confidence, even though you don't really have it.
You've got your own back that way, haven't you? Because that's the stuff. And I've firstly got to acknowledge what you said, Mark. I'm really I love working with people that just say it how it is. I like, you and I have been around the traps long enough to hear people kind of like, oh yeah, and I'm here because of, I've done all these steps and blah, blah, blah. And I love hearing when people say, like the duck underwater stuff and the dry mouth when you're like, and we're all like that. Because I know like people say to me, oh, you're always, you seem so confident, Sharon. And I'm the same. Like and that's what I love hearing that from other people that have got to a certain level of success in their business, because it's like, well, if they felt that, that's how I feel. So that means I can get there too. And that's where we want to know what's really going on. And, that imposter syndrome, we all feel it. And where it came from me, where I really started noticing it was when I worked for a company, and there was a whole bunch of people that were PhD and incredibly intelligent people that were sharing with me how scared they were about this, doing similar sort of things, not with bookkeeping, but similar sort of things to grow their companies. And it's like, really, you?
Yeah.
Like, really? Like, and they just come across like standing up on stage and presenting, and then you have the quiet little conversation in the background. You go, you should have said that on stage. Like, that would have got people feeling like, oh, I can do it too. So I really appreciate you saying that, Mark. Thank you. But also knowing, like, just touching on the point of, you read where entrepreneurs, like, millionaires, where they lose everything, and within a few years they built another business because they've already got the template. They know the journey. It is a roadmap, isn't it? And certainly hearing your journey and the steps towards that, it's just like, it is a roadmap, and you learn those skills and they never go away. You can template that on other stuff, and you come into a roadblock and you go, okay, who do I need to pull into my world to help me with that? And there's people there all the time. So So what are the top 3 things you'd suggest to other bookkeepers who want to do what you've done, Mark?
Just start.
Yeah.
Just start. And it's, how many analogies can you get out in one session? But the hardest, once you put your shoes on to go to the gym, that's it. That's all you got to do.
That's true. And get out the front door.
Is that the saying? You would know.
Yeah, it is. Once you're out the front door, you go, oh, I'm up now. I may as well just do it.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah.
But also accountability. Like I'm a big oversharer. So I tend to tell I tend to tell people what I'm doing before I do it. So, but I think that helps me do it. Because then I feel like I have to. Like I told 1 or 2 people when I was leaving my job what I was doing, and that was, to try and I guess get them ready, but also get me ready
as well.
To make me accountable for doing it. So I would say just do it and tell everybody that you're going to do it. The second thing is do have a image of the end game when you start, because building a business for you and for a job for you is different to building a business that you want to scale and grow beyond you to create a passive income for yourself to eventually sell one day. And you would approach the 2 things very differently. So have an end game and have a vision of what that looks like at the end. And our very first conversation we had, which was before I bought Pure Bookkeeping System, before I started this, before I quit my job, we talked about why, and you made me get clear on why I wanted to do it, and what that looked like and where I'd be once I'd done it, and that gives you the not the confidence. pulls you through the crappy days,
Yeah.
through the hard decisions, through the why am I doing this, because you want to get to that at the end and you want to be that at the end. So having a vision of what you want helps you. And also, and I've done a bit of networking since I left my last job and I got into BNI and all that sort of stuff. And I learned from that networking isn't just about, having a friendly time and taking business cards and see you later. There's a lot more involved in it, and creating referral partners and being engaged with other people. So much comes from that. And not a lot of it is about your skills and your ability. It's about your personality. And it's people can see that you're a good person and that you would look after them. Even if you didn't know what you were doing, you'd find a way to look after them because that's the type of person you are. And also those networking places are a place to, if you're clear about your why, you go in there and you get what you need from the people. And if they can't give you what you need, you move on to the next one.
Yeah.
In terms of, don't dilly-dally around. If there's somebody there that you're talking to, spending an hour of your 2-hour networking meeting with somebody who you're not getting anything out of, or they, you can't offer them anything, don't feel afraid to just move on. So learn more about networking and get out and network, because I haven't spent $1 on advertising. Sorry, I lie, because I just got an office and I put a sign on the door. So I've spent $150
there you go.
on advertising. That's all I've spent on advertising in 2.5, 3 years. And it's got to this, and it's all come from networking and just circles that you've been in through school, like at your kids' schools. And if you're who you are throughout the rest of your life, then you don't need to be different. You don't need to be somebody else when you walk into that networking room. You can be yourself, and people will like that, see that, you know. And if they don't, well, they're not the right person for you to work with. So no loss.
And it's such a big fear for a lot of people to go to networking. I know there's there's a big fear for a lot of people, but also that people say sometimes, it doesn't work. But what would you say about that, about networking? Do you obviously feel like it works for you? And I know that you've got some pretty amazing clients. My next question was around what's the key to getting your A, like the type of client that you've got. So, well,
you've got to know who that, what is an A grade client first, and that's looking at who you've got existing clients and grade them and go from there. But it's also, from a business point of view, I've readjusted that as I've gone on. So I now only want to work with clients who can provide my team with consistent weekly work. So there's no point me bringing on quarterly clients who do their own payroll and bank recs, and we just do their BAS at the end of the quarter, because everybody's sitting around on their thumbs for the first few months. So it is knowing your ideal client, but networking. I mean, I talk about BNI because that's my experience, but it taught me how to network. It taught me how to talk to people. The education that they have within that is really good for you to learn those things. It also taught me who I'm getting business from. So who will I get business from? So in BNI, they call it contact spheres. So, I'm in an accountant, financial planner, business coach, life coach, business broker. They are people who will refer business to me and I would refer business to them. So we have a good relationship. So you want to surround yourself with those types of people. And so, I think it's just being specific. So I've got referral partners who are accountants mainly that refer business to me, who I've met through networking events like BNI and also mutual clients and that sort of stuff. And when I talk to them about mutual clients, just in the chit chat at the start or whatever, how you going? Oh yeah, growing. Yeah, so I've got a lot of this type of client, and I'd love to work with clients if you've got any that are this turnover, this amount of payroll, and I'm very specific. And then I've got an accountants who refer business to me who have quite a big team. So you're not just telling one accountant now who you want to work with. So they're referring business to me and I'm educating them back, and a lot of the times now they'll actually call me and say, this is the client, this is what their business looks like. What do you reckon? Because they know They know that I don't say yes to everyone. And that
Oh,
was hard because I didn't want them to stop sending me stuff.
and
I had to
then,
be
yeah,
clear on why I said no. So at
no,
the start, they were sending me people, and I'd ring these people and talk to them and just go, oh, I don't want to work.
not for me.
Red flags everywhere.
Yeah,
And how am I going to tell
the
this
accountant
people
that.
now that I don't
So
want to
how
work
did
for
you
them?
tell them?
I just rang it back and I said, I've just spoken with such and such, and I just told them that I'm full.
Yeah, nice.
That I can't take them on at the moment. I said, but the real reason I wanted to tell you, and that's because they're 6 months behind in BASs, and that gives you an indication of the importance they put on what we do, and I'd prefer to work with ones that are like this. But in saying that, feel free to send them my way, and we'll have a discussion about whether I'm a good fit or whether they're a good fit for us.
It takes a lot of confidence, Mark.
Do you reckon?
Yeah, well, yes, because like the fear of them going, well, I've sent you do you know what I mean? Like the fear, I know a lot of bookkeepers out there would have like.
But that's why I wanted to clarify. Like I didn't just go no and not say anything to the accountant. I just felt like I needed to tell them and say, and that reinstates who you want to work with, and they get a clearer picture. And I had one of their team ring me the other day and say, so you're only working with payroll clients now, is that right? And I went, well, yes, that and other things. But yes, that's a key component, yes. But at least something's gone around that people know this now in that group, in that team. So that's a good thing.
But isn't it like a self-fulfilling prophecy? As soon as you step up and say, okay, this is what I want in life in general, as soon as you put that out there, that's what comes, because that's what comes back. Whereas if you go, oh, I feel like I should be just grateful for that, and then you end up with all the riffraff, and you go, well, I've got all these clients that I don't want to be working with, and it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. That's what we create. That's what we're throwing out to the,
Yeah, exactly.
It's tricky.
You're the sum of the 5 people you hang around with most, apparently.
That's right,
clients included. And I believe that too. And and key to that as well is getting rid of clients that don't meet your needs that you might have had before. Yeah. So today I've sent 2 emails to cut off services to 2 clients.
Wow.
And they are small quarterly type ones that we just spend so much time chasing. And I've got, it's BAS time, and that's key at the moment. So that's why it's come up. But I've also got phone numbers of people in hospitality who have asked for me to come and talk to them about taking on their books, and we don't have any team to do it. Yeah. So, I've got my ideal client in front of me waiting for me to go and see them, and I don't have anybody to do the work. So I got rid of some so that I've got some room so that I can go and have that conversation now. Yeah. But in saying that, they were from this accountant. So I've actually emailed her the minute after I emailed the client and said, just wanted to let you know, this is why we're not going to work with this client anymore. And thank you so much for referring them to me. And I'm going to guide them through getting a new bookkeeper and hopefully hand them over.
Yeah. So, and the accountant would respect you more for doing that, the way that you've handled it all. It's been professional and transparent and whatever. So, yeah. We've only got a little while to go, and I've got a few more key questions I want to ask you. And one of the last sort of main questions is your pet peeve in the industry. What's your pet peeve in the industry?
I think the blame game. It's everybody just blaming each other. And that's internally in the bookkeeping side, but it's also this accountant bookkeeper thing. It just annoys me, and it's just an unnecessary noise you don't need in your business. How
have you got around that? Have you managed a way to get around that?
Just don't be a part of it. Don't contribute to it. Don't give it oxygen. And the conversations that go on about or the accountant bashing, is that what they call it?
Yes, I see what you mean. Yeah, around accountants not being on board with what the bookkeepers do.
And vice versa. And even bookkeepers on bookkeepers, I've just taken over this file and this previous bookkeeper's done. Yeah. And while that might be partially true, fully true, or not at all, you never know. Because I've had a client come to me and he told me that his previous bookkeeper was terrible and didn't do this and didn't do that, and he's 6 months behind, and I've just disconnected from him today because it's exactly the same right now. We're 6 months behind because he hasn't answered a phone call, an email, or signed any BASs. So who was it, and did we jump on that bookkeeper and poo-poo her and say she didn't do the right job and not refer any business and all that sort of stuff on a client's say so, or, like make your own decision. Don't be a part of it.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, it's good advice. And, we're all, I guess there's individual situations that happen that may or may not be true. As you say, it's just good not to get involved in the conversation. It's just like, let it water off a duck's back kind of thing and move on and take the high ground. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I need to ask you this before the last two questions. If you could speak to the Mark 3 years ago, so you've been in business 2.5 years, yeah? 3 years ago when you started, what advice would you have given yourself back then?
Hire quicker.
Hire quicker, I love it. Yeah.
I've been behind the 8 ball from the beginning of not having enough people because the clients come faster than I can get team. And my position is I don't want to do 100 hours a week. And so I didn't want to keep being in that position where I kept filling myself up and then finding someone. And I always struggled because I thought I don't have any money to pay for these people until the work comes in.
That's it.
So I can't hire in advance. I have to wait and do all the work myself till I'm doing 2 jobs and then hire someone to give half of it to. But in actual fact, it just keeps coming and you just need to hire because good bookkeepers are hard to come by and just get them on.
Yeah. I had a rotation where I'd put an ad in Seek every 3 months, whether I needed a bookkeeper or not. And I always had like a little pile there of CVs that I'd pull onto and ring and talk to. It's just the best sort of thing to have, like to every 3 months, just let it keep ticking over,
Yeah.
This is a good one. What would you consider to be the number 1 or 2 things from the list that I'm about to read out that helped you realize your dream of getting off the books and just working with one client? So the list I've got is intelligence, grit, drive, personality, commitment, optimism, self-discipline, persistence, passion.
I think commitment. You've got to just commit.
Yeah.
And you read those really quickly.
Sorry, intelligence, grit, drive, personality, commitment, optimism, self-discipline.
Yeah. Optimism. So commitment and optimism.
Yeah.
You got to believe that it's going to come. You got to believe that everything's going to work and that you're doing the right thing and that, clients aren't talking behind your back about you and how crap you are and how you miss all these things. And, every time I get a missed call from a client, I wonder, are they questioning my bill or have I made a mistake? Has the accountant found something, but optimism gets you through, I guess, and commitment. Just commit to doing the work to get to the why at the end.
So true across every industry I've been in. It's like if you just do the work, and it's the work that we don't want to do, it's the work we avoid, right? It's if you do the work, it's so it shows up in really good ways in your business that's where you get the freedom that you've got at the moment. Last 2 questions. What are the top 3 books you'd recommend for our audience and the top 3 podcasts, if you know 3 that you'd recommend?
I start with podcasts. So obviously the Successful Bookkeeper, that is an amazing podcast and has taught me a lot and I listen to it all the time. Also Mark Burris.
Yes. Yeah.
I love his straight talk. I haven't got a third. I have started listening to Two Drunk Accountants because somebody suggested, I think, on one of the
you just cut off a bit there. It was the Two Drunk Accountants,
the Two Drunk Accountants. I've started listening to that.
I've
so
listened to it a few times.
And the books, like I love Mike McCullowick, so Profit First, Clockwork, which is his as well, and the E-Myth from Michael Gerber, and Debbie Roberts. That's really, really specific how-tos for our industry. Like it's Yeah, really, really good. Self-explanatory why that's probably the top one. But yeah, Mike McCulloch's is got some good stuff.
Yeah, he really does, doesn't he? And yeah, Profit First is a really good one for like as a beginning, and then Clockwork, as you say, is another great one as well. So awesome. This has been really great, Mark. You've really given us such a good insight into how you've done it, and you've done it in super quick time. You've been very deliberate around how you've built your business, and you're being rewarded. So I'm so grateful that you spent, like, I know it's a really busy time, so I'm really grateful that you've spent the time with us.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, and thanks for your guidance in all of this, because it's made it even clearer what I need to do and where I need to go. It's yeah, it's amazing, and it's a good feeling now to know that Christmas holidays won't be like they were last year.
Nice, exactly. Awesome. Well, thank you so much again, and yeah, certainly we'll get you on the podcast, the Entrepreneurial Bookkeeper podcast next year, so come back and tell us more about where you've got to. So that'd be awesome.
Sounds good. Funny we can find stuff.
Yeah. Exactly. All right, thanks, Mark.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.